Okay, so today it's going to be a bit of a mixed bag. Just 1 minute.
Sorry?
No, just one. Sorry. It's going to be a little bit of a mixed bag because we're going to start with going back to some of the stuff that didn't work completely well last meeting. We're going to
Okay.
and we also review a little bit about MVC. I hope you were able to get into that a little bit. We'll be then walking through creating a page in your sample application with realistic UI. So we'll show working with the VTDoc samples and actually creating something that works and is of interest, UI-wise. And then, hopefully, if we have time, we'll start the fourth topic because it's a long and heavy topic of extending VisualTree, adding what is required to add a new support for a new control in VisualTree. So we will go through some of the background for that to make sure that on Sunday we are able to cover the whole thing and get to something working. So that's the
Okay.
plan. That's the plan for today.
Yeah.
Um, so going back to adding a page in an MVC application. And these are really the steps that are required. First, adding an area if you want to work in a new area, adding a view and a controller, and taking care of naming conventions, and we'll review that together with you shortly. Adding a model if there is a model, if there is data operations and a model required, and work with the routing again if you want to change the default. So let's step into the sample, and here we have the initial sample that we've been looking at since the first meeting, with the controller called basic text box. With that's a model actually. The controller is over here with an action result named index, and then the corresponding view, which is also named index and shows the presentation. So now the task for us to do is essentially creating a new page with a different name and everything that is required for that page. So if we change, let's just run it and remind ourselves how it looks like. Quite simple. We don't want to start in the view because that is not how it works. So so this is the page, and it's wired to the events, and everything works. Going back and looking at the routing. So let's yeah. So this is the active routing. Oops. So I would like to ask you, what are these parts? The controller, action, and ID. How does this work? Have you looked into the MVC routing?
Yes, actually we have gone through the MVC.
You've gone through what? Sorry?
Yeah, we have just gone through the MVC routing methods. There are two types of MVC routing. So
Huh?
in that we are just calling by the controller name and action. If we are passing any ID, then it's an optional parameter.
Correct. So in this case, running, so in this case, the default is the controller basic text box and the action index. Let's run it again. Um, let's run it again and play with that a little bit. So because
Okay.
because the default is basic text box and for the controller and index for the action, if
Mm-hmm.
we don't need to type those in. But if we do type them in, basic text box
Basic.
and nothing here, it'll still work because the
Yes.
index is also the default. And then we can also
Yes.
add index. Okay?
Yeah.
So these are all equivalent. Going back here, now let's make a change. Okay? So, uh, right. So now what we're going to do is change the name of the view to something else. Let's call it, say, text box.
Mm-hmm.
And um, let me point out that the title is only an attribute. We can change it, we cannot change it, we can leave it unchanged. It doesn't really matter. Let's write
Okay.
here new. Okay? Just the title is unrelated. And now we need to go to the controller and change the name of the action result that we want to be connected to that page to be a text box. All right. Any questions? Anything unclear?
No. No.
Okay, so we are running. Will it work now?
I think no. We need to change the routing.cs, no?
Right, right. What needs to be changed there?
Index
The,
action
so
action.
the default action, right? Yeah. So
Yes. Yes.
that is correct. Let's walk through that. There's an error here. So if we put in basic text box, it still won't work, but we need to write a text box,
Text.
as you pointed out, and now it will work. Great. So now everything works. The events are wired out. And if we go back here, the final change we can make in the routing is changing the default action to text box, and now we can run the application without specifying anything in the URL. So is that clear to all present?
Yes. Yes.
Good, great. We wanted to clear that up. And right, so now we have it running in the default. We don't need to specify it in the URL, and this is really the basic mechanism of creating an MVC application and doing the routing, and I think that's important to keep in mind. I'll hand over to Aslan now to go through one more extended sample.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Now we will basically create a new view, new area with a new controller and a new view. We will put a simple toolbar docked to the top. On the left, we will assign 2 text boxes and 1 button. And also, as you can see, we have 1 toolbar with 1 button with the image above. And on this part, we have a panel with 2 labels, name and age, 2 text boxes related to the labels, and 1 button that eventually will add these names to the grid. Now we will create this example fully based on creating a new area and run it to look like this application. Okay? First, let us create. You can take the phone.
1 minute, we're having connectivity problems. Cancel. Mama.
Okay, sorry for that.
Okay.
Okay, now we will add a new area named grid example. Okay. Let's go to the folder we have created. Now, as you can see, the controller is empty, also the model, also the views folder. Now, let's look at the grid example area registration. The area name is matched to the folder name, and also the register area. We have the grid example default, also the action result to match the controller that we will create later. Now, one thing we must change is basically add. Wait for a second.
Yes.
Basically add this new string to match the folder name. Now we will go back to our folder grid example and rename the grid. Now we will create. Excuse me?
Yes. Okay, the moment we create a new area, then the controller, model, and those are folders are created by default, right?
Can you repeat again?
If we create a new area, like grid example, then controller, model, and view, that folders are created on its own, right?
You need to
Or we
create
need,
new object in the new area, if that's what you mean. Is that
okay.
your question? Yeah.
whenever you create a new area, it's basically creating just the folders. Now,
Okay.
now you must add a new controller, a new model if needed, and also a new view according to
Okay.
what you need. Okay, let's take and create a new controller. MVC5 controller. We will name it according to the name, grid, example, control. As we can see, we have this namespace, the grid example controller, and also the default view would be index. So we must create a view name index or just basically change the name of the view. So let's go to the view and create a new view inside the shared folder. Why I have also a grid example in here. Let's delete it. Okay, let's create a new view. Add a new item. We will go to Visual C# Web Forms and create a web form with a master page. We will name it index SP according to the name inside the action result in the controller.
Oh wow, there's some echoing from your side. We can hear ourselves doubled. Maybe if you mute. Yeah, I think now it's better.
Okay. Whenever we create a new web forms, it's basically adding this title. Okay, first of all, the page title doesn't matter for our purposes. The language is C#, master page file related to the master file in here,
Which we can see.
which we have seen. Now the code behind. The most important part we need to add to our view is inherits must be our view page. We will change it according system.web.mvc view page. Now,
That is required to work with VisualTree?
yes.
Mm-hmm.
Now we must add another aspx tag indicating which tag prefix we will use. We basically need to register our VisualTree tag.
The VT.
VT, yes. Now we will add a new ASP tag, register assembly name, that would be system.web.visual3 web controls. And also we need to add the namespace of the web controls system web visual 3 web controls. And also we need to add the tag prefix that would be VT.
So this is really connecting between all the tags that we will be using with the prefix VT to the namespace and assembly of VisualTree.
Okay. Now, it was basically creating a new web form and changing the first two lines, adding our system web MVC view page and also adding the new line to register our assembly and also mention which tag prefix we will use. Now you can duplicate this part and every time you want to create a new view, you don't need to add manually these lines, just copy the one view, create one template and always use that view. Okay?
Okay.
Now we need to add a window view. We will add a new window view related on our prefix VT, VT window
So this is the main window.
We will add an ID and also height, let's say 400, and also width, let's say 600 pixels. We will close the VT tag, and it's automatically will add the ending of the VT tag we have created. Now we will stop in here. We will go back to our controller.
So basically, you've now created an empty page, and you want to connect it to an action in the controller.
Now we will go to the route config and change it according to our sample, and we will run it just for see the empty page if it's working or not. Now back to the grid example controller, we have this namespace. We will copy it and go to the route config. Basically, we will change this sample. You can copy it, but it doesn't matter. We will change it to a grid element, grid example control. This is our namespace just for remembering. Namespace match our namespace, the area name, grid example, done. Now we need to change also the controller name, would be grid example, and the action would be index. Now we will change this tag just to remember which example we are running. We will comment out this part, doesn't matter. Now let's double check it. Grid example, controller name match the controller name, the action would be index, the namespace is MVC area grid example, the area name is grid example. Okay, let's go back to our controller. We will see that the name of the action results match the view we have created. Now basically let's run it and check what we have. Okay, we have this ambitious. It came from migrated MVC, DLL, and also let's check it explicitly. Okay, let's see. The microtelecom to migrate application, MVC site bin, system web MVC, DLL. Okay. Now, whenever you create a new area, it's adding basically one new view engine page. Now let's look for it.
Maybe copy the one from your working. Yeah.
Let's take the one is working. We'll go to the first training. Inside the first. Okay. Let's try it again, just check the error. Let's copy it. Have been system web MVC, DLL, and also view page. Let's copy the view page.
תממה? או שהעתקת את ה...
לא, אני צריך למצוא את הקוד. Okay. Inside the index.jspeak designer CS, it's basically whenever you create a new view, it's adding automatically the view page. Now, the error we have is because we have changed the inherits to be system web MVC view page. We have two references of the view page. One is our DLL, and one the one we have created when the index.jspeak added. Now, basically, just comment out this view page. Not needed. We are going to use the view page of our VisualTree, and let's run it again.
It's an additional page, additional file that is added, a hidden file.
So basically recommended just to create one template and always copy from that template. Okay, basically we have an empty page. Let's add.
So let's just go back at what just happened. Because we added the new page using Visual Studio's template, there was a can you go back to the Visual Studio? When you have a view, there are a bunch of hidden files that are part of what is created. And what was created was a standard view page, which we don't actually need because we are using a different configuration. So when you're using add new, this will happen. There are two solutions to it. A, not to use add new, but to copy an existing page that uses VisualTree already. Also, we are working at Gizmox to add a template which will replace the add new, actually will be used inside add new with a template for a VisualTree based view page. So we will be delivering that, I think, shortly, and that will enable you to use the add new of Visual Studio. But anyway, even if you use add new and you get you come against this problem, it's quite easy to solve. Okay, continue.
Okay, let's add one toolbar. Now, you can use as a reference the VisualDocs. For this string, I will add automatically. Whenever you create new view, you can just run the VisualDocs and rely on the controls we have there. We will add the toolbar, VisualTree, run at server. We will add also doc to the top. And also, let's say that the top, it doesn't matter, but we will mention it anyway. And also left would be, and we will give ID to this toolbar, let's say action bar. Close it. Now, let's add one toolbar button. VT run at server. Also, I don't think the doc is mattering here, so we will not need it. We will add also tooltip text. Let's say preview report. We also say, let's say preview text, adding ID. Let's say menu preview, height, 40 pixel, and also width. And we will close this type.
This is the button.
So let's run it and see how exactly we are rendering.
How big man? No, moment.
So and
What was the problem?
the same file, let's check it again.
הקלטה לא שלו, זה שאתה בעצם עושה גרב ושולח.
מהמחשב.
Okay, there's again some communication problem, but I hope it clears itself up.
This is auto-generated by a tool. Let's check the properties of this view. There's nothing of inside the custom tool, so we will just delete it again. See for this example, and later we will, after creating the new templates, we will see how exactly it will work.
Is there a question?
Yes, I have one question.
Go ahead.
Yeah, actually, why I am not using HTML control instead of this VT control?
Sorry, why are we using VisualTree controls?
Yeah, actually, HTML control is not heavier, right?
Well, this question really goes back to the beginning of our training and to the basic concept here. We explained in the first meeting why we are using VisualTree. Let's go over that very briefly again. Remember that what we are doing here is not creating a new ASP.NET application. Rather, we are migrating or modernizing your existing application that is now a desktop application.
Okay.
If you are going to use basic HTML controls, first thing is that there isn't a toolbar in an HTML control. You would need to use something that is more advanced, using some sort of JavaScript-based rendering, etc. So, pure HTML is not really an option at any rate. Why are we using VisualTree? VisualTree gives us essentially the state preservation and serialization that is required because your business logic is tied to a stateful application. And
Okay.
saying more would really be repeating the first session, so I suggest that you maybe review that. But that is the basic, that is the reason of us developing and implementing and using the VisualTree infrastructure.
Okay.
Okay. After running the application, as you can see, we have added one toolbar with a preview text and also just the text. Now let's add a button, an image to the button, and we will see how it will work. Now, inside the toolbar button, first of all, I have added a folder inside content named Images FRM Manager with images from your project, just for this example. Okay?
Okay.
Now we will add image. Let's say preview. Okay, we will say also the text image relation would be image not text.
That's the positioning of the image in the button related to the text in the button?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So the domain. Okay, we have added the preview. We just need to fix by styling, but it doesn't matter for now. We'll proceed with our example.
Okay.
Now we will add one panel dock to the left and also one panel dock to the top or to the right, and we'll add the other controls we have wanted to create. Go back to the index. After the toolbar, we will add infinity panel, run at server. Let's say back color would be white. Auto size would be true. We will add also dock to the left. The top would be 40 based on the toolbar we have created. And the left, I don't think it's matter when you are adding a dock, but we will add it anyway. Let's say 450 pixels, but it still doesn't matter. We will add it just for seeing it. We will give an ID to this panel, panel 1, height also 400, and width with now inside this panel, let's add one level just to see how exactly it will be displaying.
Okay.
Let's say the text would be name, and we will close. Let's run it. As you can see, we have added the panel to the left and also one label. Now we will add, according to this example, we will add one text box related to the name and also another label with a text box related to the age and one button.
Oh no. Reconnect. Okay.
Okay, let's try it again.
כן, כי כנראה שפה זה לא קופץ.
Now let's add the addition controls. We go back to our view. Okay. After the label, we will add VT text box, one server. We will say the left. We also 10 pixels.
This is still in the panel on the left?
Yes. Text. I don't want a text for this text box. And height of the text box will be 20 pixels. Width. Okay. We will add an ID. TXT name. Now we will add. We will add another VT label. Another server. So pixels. Text would be age. Now we will add the last text box on a server. The left also 10 pixels to match the first text box. The top would be, it's basically basic CSS, but it doesn't matter. We will add it anyway. We have height 20 pixels match the first text box and also with 50 pixels. We will add also an ID for using it inside the controller. TXT age. Okay, the last thing we must add is the button, VT button. We will add left position, 10 pixels, the top 140 pixels, and we will add the text to the button, add new row with ID, btn, add to grid. We will close it. Now let's run it again. This file is generated by the tool. We will cancel it later, but it doesn't matter for our purposes.
בעצם מספיק למחוק את ה-SPX בסוף לדעתי. רק אם לך ותביאו.
Okay, as you can see, we have name label, age label, 2 text boxes, and 1 button.
Any questions about what Aslan has been showing?
No.
If screen resolution has got changed, then how it will behave? Like,
If you're asking about screen resolution, actually about the responsiveness of this.
yes.
So this is now being implemented for these controls. We're not going to show it here on this example, but we are implementing the solution for that also. So for your application, it will definitely be there. It will respond essentially to screen resolution and even more importantly to screen change. You know, if you make the browser window somewhat smaller or go to a tablet. So all of these are now being QA'd for implementation. So it will be part of the VisualTree infrastructure. At the moment on this version, it isn't actually active.
Okay, are we using like Bootstrap in that, or like how?
No, it's going to be implemented as part of the VisualTree infrastructure.
Okay, yeah, okay, sure. Thank you.
So it would be matched to the Sencha framework responsiveness.
Yeah, that's right. Alternatively to Bootstrap, Sencha itself supports that, so we are actually making use of those capabilities.
Okay.
Okay, let's proceed. Now we will add a new panel with a grid inside. Let's go back to our index. Okay, we will add the VT panel. Run at server. Let's say back color be light. Dock. I want it to fill the whole screen that left. Top would be matched to the toolbar height. ID panel 2. That's it basically. Now inside, let's add the VT grid. Let's say the row headers visible. And also auto scroll to be true. And tooltip text. You. Now we must add also an ID to this grid. We'll say grid control, let's say 1, and we will add 2 columns to this grid just for displaying it on the rendering. We will add 1 column named VT grid column with ID for name, run at server, and also the header text would be matching the name of the grid, the column. And also we need to add the data member for using it later in the controller will be call name. Let's mention also the width of the column, let's say 100 pixels, and close it. Now we will add a copy, we will name it call age. The header text will be age, call name, the most important to change will be call age. Okay, let's say the width 150, just for showing the differences between the width. Okay, let's just double check if you have the two tags, opening tag and the closing tag. Also to the
That doesn't need to be VT. Columns is not VT.
no, columns. Okay, let's go to the behind code and comment it out again. Actually,
It's perfect. It's better.
so بكون نجمع لك
אתה גדי.
רק להוסיף
באקשן.
Okay.
So 2 columns, but no actual data.
Now I want to add a click action to this button. Whenever I click it, it will take the text fields and add it to this grid. Now, okay, now we will go to the view and add and click action to this button. Okay, going back to the index I speaks. Button, click action.
So now essentially wiring the control, the button to an action in the controller.
Let's take the ID. Now basically we need to add this function, the action result, to the controller. I go to the controller. Love it.
Okay.
Okay. I didn't. Okay. We will add public void click object sender and also event args e. I have a problem with the object. Now basically we can get the button instance in 2 ways. We have button element. Let's reference it. Button using VisualTree elements. Let's say btn1. We can get it in 2 ways. We can use this get visual ID button element, giving the ID of our button. We will need to add also the using of this system web VisualTree MVC. This is the first option for getting the button control. The second is just casting the object to button element. Okay?
So the sender, as in many environments, the sender actually contains the control that this event originated from, and you can cast it to an object in the action. This goes back to a question that you had in one of the previous meetings.
Okay. Now, basically, let's start the application and we'll add the functionality that we wanted on runtime. Okay. Let's check again. Okay, we have set a breakpoint. Now, let's say the name would be Aslan, the age would be 122. We will add, after pressing this button, we will invoke the action result of btn add to grid, click.
We hope.
Okay, my mistake. I have started the application without debugging. So let's start it again.
Makes sense.
Okay. Okay, now basically what we must do is taking the instances of our controls of the two text boxes. The first one would be text box name, the second text box age.
Hey,
Now let's copy it, age, and also txt age.
So you're accessing the two control objects on the page.
And we also need to take the grid element. Now let's check if we have written the names matching to our index space. We have the first button element, the text also correct, the text age also working. Now, basically what we need to do is to add the new rows according to the names we have inside the fields we have inside the text name and also the text age.
So add a row with the values that you got from the text boxes.
We will add also grid control refresh data, also grid control refresh. Okay.
Voila.
Let's check the grid. name. Okay, we have the grid element, grid control. Let's go back to our controller. Okay, let's click it again. We'll add the name, again, age 20. Let's press it again. As you can see, we have one row updated. We will add the text field and also his age 20. And we will basically refresh data and also refresh the control. Let's press 5. And as you can see, we have added the name. We can add as many names we want. Now, I just want, let's say, for example, whenever I click the row, it's also doing it automatically, but as you can see, you can also do in this part, according to Sencha, changing the data. We are adding a functionality to our grid to support grouping also for this micro telecom application.
So something that is in DevExpress essentially.
Yes.
So what Aslan was showing just now is that the grid, by default, with properties and capabilities coming from Sencha, supports in-place editing and reordering of the columns, also sorting columns. Many basic functionalities are there. And what is now being added to the grid capabilities is special or additional or advanced capabilities that come from DevExpress, and these will be added to the VisualTree control for the functionality that is required in Sencha. Let's show the application again. Just to review, and maybe also in light of the question about why are we not using HTML or maybe ASP.NET controls, to highlight that what you have here is there's a lot happening behind the scenes here. And you notice that we have actually an Ajax enabled application. When the click occurs, the page is not refreshed. It is updated in place. Only the DOM is modified. It doesn't require round trips to the server. So a lot is happening here, including maintaining the Ajax communication channel, and not to mention all of the rendering that is happening here in JavaScript with the included Sencha libraries that are part of the master, and we can maybe look at all of those includes in the master. So when you base a new view page on the standard master, all of the Sencha libraries are included, and there's a huge amount of infrastructure that is running sort of behind the scenes just to render and then interact and update in JavaScript for these relatively complex pages. But all you need to do as the programmers is use simple tags and wire events and write standard logic code, or for us to rewrite your business rules from the VB.NET application into those events. So it's really the minimum gap between VB.NET desktop application to highly optimized and modern and capable web application. So just to, we sometimes get lost in the details, but yeah, to my mind, it's quite impressive although I say it about our own infrastructure, that you get all of these capabilities with simple tags and action events.
Okay.
What remains to be seen, and we will start talking about that is how do you modify or add those tags for new control. Plan, do you want to add anything before that?
No.
If not, what will already give you the new assignment. So the current assignment is for you to replicate the application that Aslan just did in front of your eyes to create a similar new page and to send it to us so we can run it and test it. Okay?
Okay.
So adding an area in your in the sample application and doing all that is required. What we will do for you to be able to do that, we will send you an updated version of VT Docs so that you can rely on the samples there. So that we will do that later today, and you will have that. You will also have the recording of this session. So if you want to go step by step, but I think doing it by your own will be helpful to understand the whole process from end to end. Okay, good. So now, just to put a point and start a new section of the training, we are going to start on the last topic of this training course, which is how do you modify or create new tags or new controls in VisualTree. And I think what Aslan is going to end up showing is up down. How's it called?
Spin edit.
The spin edit control. That is going to be the aim of this section. What we will do today is lay down some groundwork, some general stuff that needs to be in there when you are creating a new control. I think John has just jumped in. Hi, John.
Yes, I am on.
So we've been going through, just to recap, we've been going through some MVC basics to make sure that everyone is on the same page. Aslan has been showing creating a more complex page using VT objects like toolbar, panel, and grid, and wiring up an event. And we've given the guys an assignment to recreate that page on their own and send us a running application. So that's where we are at. And now we'll start talking about modifying VisualTree.
Okay, thank you.
Now, whenever we want to extend the VisualTree, let's say, for example, adding a new functionality of new control, or basically add a new control that does not exist in the VisualTree. Now, let's go first of all to the website of Sencha. We are using 6.2 version. So whenever you go to this site, you can change it. I will send it to all of you after this session. We are using 6.1 or 6.2, I'm not sure, I will check it, but let's say for this session we will go through 6.2.1. Now the control I want to create is spin. Let's go back to our VisualTree. Okay, the name of the number I will open also the example of the control in DevExpress. Pin edit, dev. Now, as you can see, the control is basically a text box with two buttons for up and down the numbers that is written inside the control. Okay? Now, whenever you want to control a new control, first of all, you must understand what is the equivalent control in Sencha. Now, in DevExpress, we have the spin edit. After searching inside the docs, inside the API of the Sencha website, I have found that the ext form field number with the X type of number field is matching to our control. Now let's review this example shortly. I'm not sure if you're able to read this part. I will enlarge it slightly. This is basically pure JavaScript syntax of Sencha. They are creating new panel with a title with body padding, some CSS styling, and also adding items to the panel. The first item would be number field. This is the equivalent in Sencha to pin edit, and also adding name and setup value, and also mentioning the max value and also the minimum value. Let's run this example. You can see we have this application with the default value of 99. Take one down, pass it around, let's press it. As you can see, it's just a basic example of the spin edit. Inside, we have another example with, let's run it, without the buttons to up and down the numbers. Now, as you can see, we can't press any key except the numbers. So I'm trying to press A, D. I'm not able to add it because it's supporting just the number field. Now, after finding out what is the equivalent in Sencha, that would be ext form field number and also X type number field. These two parts are the most important for creating a new element. You need to add the ext form field number and also mention what type does it support. It's a number field. Now I will show, you can review these parts also. We have a config, basically the first setup of the CSS or other thing. We have properties field, methods, event, and also theme variables. But it doesn't matter for our example, so we will go back to the VT docs. Inside the VT docs, we have, back to our first session, we have folder named VisualTree. Inside, we have all the projects related to the VisualTree. The most important for our session would be this part, System Web VisualTree, that contains all the elements. The System Web VisualTree rendering ext.js, that would be basically have the renderer of our new element. And the System Web VisualTree Web Controls. Inside we have the generated controls that just expose the VisualTree control we have added to the markup. Any questions for now? Okay. Now, whenever you add a new control, First of all, you need to go to System Web Visual Tree, inside Elements, choose the appropriate folder. For our purposes, I have added the spin edit model inside DevExpress because it's directly related just to DevExpress. Now, as you can see, I have created spin edit element. Inside the spin edit element, I have added the inheritance of text box element. The spin edit is basically text box. The input can be just numbers according to the Sencha doc, as we have already seen.
How do you limit it to only numbers?
If you mention the X type number field, it will generate automatically according to the Sencha framework.
Okay.
Now, after adding this element, I need to create a renderer matching to the element I have created inside the system Visual Studio.
And just to review, a renderer is a part of the infrastructure that will create the HTML and especially the JSON that will be sent to the JavaScript on the page, to the Sencha library JavaScript on the page, to do the actual rendering on the page.
Now, adding a new file named spin edit element is basically the model name, and also adding exjs renderer. Okay, we are adding also the spin edit element matching the name exjs renderer base. The base file is not, we don't have to create it manually. After adding these two lines, I will explain it in 1 minute. After adding these 2 lines and also add one property to the file, it will be generated automatically with the run custom tool. I will explain it also. Now, the first, we have 2 mandatory attributes whenever we are adding a new renderer. The first one is the MEF attribute, the export. It's basically expose the specific class to MEF. How it's work, when VisualTree is loading, it searches all the classes which have the following attribute: export, type of, iVisual, element, renderer. The second one is XTJS renderer description. First, you have to add the model type. In our example, it will be spin edit element. The second would be the renderer of the base. Let's review it. Textbox element XJS renderer. Going back to our spin edit element, we can see that we have added the text box element in the inheritance. So if we are consistent in the naming convention, whenever we are creating a new model and also a new renderer, we can easily find the rest of the name. Let's say for our example, text box element. So whenever I want to add, I just take in the prefix, text box element, and adding like this part, AXJS renderer. That would be the base renderer of the element. Now, the third part, we are adding the default X type and the XTJS type of the model element. Now, I have talked inside the website, the most two important things to remember, let's enlarge it slightly, was the name of the control, ext form field number, and also the default X type that is number field. Why it's so important? Because whenever we add a new control and mention the ext renderer description, we need to add the X type in the third field and also mention the name of the control in the last field. Okay? Any questions for now? Okay. Now, I want to explain how exactly the renderer base is generated. As I said, whenever we add a new element renderer, we are adding manually this name, but it is generated automatically. So let's go and see how exactly it performs. We will go to the file, properties. Inside we have one field named custom tool. Whenever we're adding a new renderer or a new control, we basically need to go to the properties and say custom tool renderer generator. Now, I won't explain how exactly it's working because it's not your concern. We are handling it automatically. Just remember, whenever you add a new control, the name of the rest of the control need to match always to the extjs renderer, and also whenever you add inheritance, it must match the name of the controller of the model and also exjs renderer base. Now, after creating this and also adding the renderer generator custom tool, whenever you save, this file is generated automatically. Now, let's review this file for flight. The int type just would be the name of the control we want to create. The X type is number field, and also we have some other functions that not related so much to creating a new control. It's basically creating automatically by the run custom tool. Now, after creating this new control, we have created one model, spin edit. We have created also the spin edit element, the renderer. Now we need to go to the system web VisualTree web controls. We have the generated controls. Okay, inside the generated controls we have what we must do is just right click and press run custom tool. It will go over the new controls that we have added and add this control inside this file. Let's search for the bin edit. Okay, as you can see, it has added automatically. You don't need to review this all the time. I'm just showing it. We have added the spin edit element. Now, basically, you can use it in the markups as VT control, just saying VT dot spin edit element and use all the controls.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so this has been the background for creating a new control. I'm sorry, in VisualTree. Next time we will go into next time we will show the details of that, including the model and the render and the controller. So, any questions on what we discussed just now, or anything else?
Yeah, like once we created the elements like this, the properties were like how we are mapping the properties to that element, or it's getting mapped by default.
Are you asking how are the properties that exist in the base Sencha controls, how are they mapped to the one that we are creating?
Yes, if you want to add some other properties.
Okay, so let's separate between the pre-existing properties, the ones that come from the Sencha elements that we are inheriting from, and to properties that we want to add, which is essentially why we are creating a new control. Okay?
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. First, let's see the spin edit element. Now we can see that we are inheriting from a text box element. So the spin edit element also have all the things that text box element have. Let's review.
Yes.
Let's review, for example, the text box element renderer. We will go to the XCGS renderer. As we can see, we have a bunch of properties and events, and also the text box element. We will go back to the. Also, the text box element have inheritance from text box element base, also from input element. So the base would be control element. Let's review the control element renderer. I just want to show that we have all the properties.
Okay.
Okay, just for a second. As we can see, inside the control element, we have these all properties already implemented. So let's say in spin edit element, you want to use a height or a visible, so you have already have it in the inheritance from the parent. That will be the control element. Okay.
Okay.
This is the first one. Now, it's basically using what you have already implemented. Now, you have also methods and also events. You have basic styling and also config according to the Sencha API. You can also add, let's say, for example, a method using a file, a resource file not related to this part. I will show it in the next session. Now going back to the spin edit element. Okay. Now spin edit element have two properties that the text box doesn't have. It's min value and max value. Okay, as you can see. Okay, as you can see, I have added a new functionality to this spin edit element, mentioning the min value, what is the property initialize code. We will explain it in the next session. We will also demonstrate how exactly we are going to do that. And also we have code whenever the property change, we are applying this Sencha code. Okay?
So, Aslan, is it correct to say that if you're inheriting from a specific Sencha control, so your new control will automatically have all the properties from the base control, like I don't know, text box, background color, font, etc. You don't need to map those explicitly because they're, and you can access them in the view where you're putting the new control in. You can access them without actually mapping them specifically. Is that correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay. And anything you want to add, like the min value, max value here, that is what you need to do when you're creating the new control. Okay, is that clear?
Okay. Yes.
Okay. Now, let's go back to our VT-docs. Inside the VT-docs, I have added an example of the spin edit. Inside, I have a folder named DevExpress Control, the spin edit element. I have added only one example, the basic example. Now, if you want to add, you can also add the min value, max value, and other properties that you want to implement, and also add them to this example. But let's just review this example. I have created a new view with a label and also the control that we have created. VT spin edit. Let's go to the right.
With min text and max text.
Yes, we are using min value 3, max value 12. The text will be 5. And also added one new functionality, spin action. Whenever you are pressing the up or the down button, it will display a message box. Let's just preview it. Let's just preview the example. Now, as we can see, we have the 5 value. Whenever I press up, I'm showing direction up and also updating the value inside the spin edit. Now let's press it again. Let's press down. It's just basically I have created this example for my purposes. Now you can create any basic example that you want according the work you must do.
So this is pretty much what we wanted to show today, preparations for creating the actual control objects next time. To remind you, the assignment that we are giving, once we send you an updated VT docs later today, right, is to recreate the page that Aslan showed you creating earlier in the meeting.
Yeah, sure.
And obviously, surprise us, add additional functionality, additional controls, go wild. And send us the code, and we will, and also, as usual, any questions that come up, if something doesn't work or you're not sure about how to do anything, you can WhatsApp Aslan, by the way. He's available if you want to ask him questions online. That's also okay.
Yeah, sure.
So I think we can close for today, unless there's anything else you want to discuss. And we will meet on Sunday at the same time, same place.
Yeah, sure, sure.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay,
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Ah,
Thank you, John.
hello, Sam.
Thank you.